Hello, everyone. Welcome to Learn English Podcast.
My stepfather learned English through story.
Hello, everyone. My name is Liza, and I want to share the story of my stepfather, a story that changed the way I see family, love, and life itself. And I hope by the end of this story, you will feel the same warmth and hope I felt, even in the hardest moments of my life. I remember the first day he came into our house, and I was only 10 years old. And at first, I did not know how to feel because my mother had been alone for a long time, and suddenly there was a man who smiled and tried to make me feel comfortable. But I was shy, angry, and confused, and I did not want to call him dad because in my heart, I was still loyal to my father who had passed away. Yet slowly, every day, he tried to understand me, asking me simple questions like what I wanted for breakfast or what games I liked to play. And even though I ignored him, I could feel that he was patient, never forcing me to do anything, never raising his voice. And one day, when I was sitting alone in my room feeling sad because I missed my father, he came quietly and sat beside me. And without saying anything, he handed me a small notebook. And inside were little notes, drawings of flowers, and words like, "You're strong," and "I am here if you need me." And at that moment, I felt a tiny spark in my heart, a warmth I had not felt in months. And over the years, he became more than a stepfather. He became a teacher, a friend, and someone I could trust with my deepest fears. And we shared laughter during simple moments like cooking together or reading stories at night. And we shared tears when life was hard, like when my mother was sick and he held my hand, showing me that love does not always mean being perfect, but being present. And through every small gesture, every act of kindness, I learned that family is not just about blood. It is about the people who stay, the people who care, and the people who help you grow. And even when I made mistakes or felt angry at him, he never gave up. And slowly, I started calling him Dad, softly at first, then with all my heart. And I realized that love is patient, love is kind, and sometimes love comes from the most unexpected places. And now, as I look back, I can see that my stepfather shaped me in ways I will never forget, teaching me to be strong, compassionate, and hopeful. And even though life is not always easy, and even though we all face challenges, the love of family, whether by blood or by choice, is what carries us forward. And I am grateful every day for him, for my mother, and for the small moments that taught me that family is about understanding, about patience, about showing up, and about sharing life together. And I hope that my story helps you see that even in difficult times, even when you feel alone, love can come to you in unexpected ways. And you just need to open your heart, be patient, and let it grow. Because love, real love, is a journey that changes you, teaches you, and helps you become the best version of yourself. And that is the story of my stepfather, the man who taught me how to believe in people, how to believe in love, and how to believe in myself. As I grew older, my relationship with my stepfather deepened in ways I never expected, because life has a way of testing you, of showing you what kind of strength and love you are capable of. And I remember one afternoon when I was 15, sitting at the kitchen table, frustrated with school and feeling that no one understood me. And he came in quietly, carrying 2 cups of tea, and he didn't say, "Come down" or "Stop being silly." He just sat with me, letting me speak, letting me pour out my worries, my fears, my confusion about friends, grades, and my dreams. And I realized that sometimes love is not about solving problems, but about being there, about listening, about holding space for someone's pain without judgment. And in those moments, I started to see him not as a replacement for my father, but as someone who was choosing to love me every single day, despite my walls, despite my anger, despite my fear of opening my heart. And I started noticing the small things he did, the way he remembered my favorite stories, the way he quietly fixed things around the house because he knew I hated clutter, the way he laughed at my silly jokes, the way he encouraged me to try new things, even when I was afraid to fail. And I began to understand that family is built through actions, not titles. And slowly my heart started to heal from the loneliness I felt after my father's passing, because I realized that love can grow in new forms. Love can be gentle, patient, persistent, and that the people who choose to stay in your life, who care for you even when it's hard, are the ones who teach you the true meaning of family. And I remember another moment, one of the most emotional of my life, when I was 17, and I had failed an important exam, feeling like the world was crashing down on me. And I ran to my room, crying, ashamed, thinking that I had disappointed everyone. And he knocked on my door, came in, and sat beside me, without saying anything, then hugged me tightly and whispered, "Liza, failure is not the end. It is the beginning of learning. I'm proud of you no matter what." And in that hug, I felt a lifetime of judgment and fear wash away, replaced by trust, security, and love. And in that moment, I realized that a stepfather is not someone who replaces a father, but someone who walks with you, who teaches you resilience, who shows you that mistakes do not define you, and that love is not conditional. And over the years, we shared countless small adventures, trips to the park, late night conversations under the stars, walks in the rain, learning to cook new recipes, reading books together, and even sitting in silence, because silence with someone who loves you is never empty. It's full of comfort, full of understanding, full of unspoken connection. And through all of these experiences, I learned to open my heart, to trust, to forgive, and to accept love even when it comes in unexpected ways. Because sometimes the people who change your life are not the ones you choose, but the ones who choose you. And my stepfather chose me every day, showing me that family is not just defined by blood, but by the willingness to show up, to care, and to love, even when it's hard, even when it is inconvenient. And I began to understand that life is full of challenges, that people will leave, that loss is inevitable. But love, true love, has the power to heal, to guide, and to transform. And now, as I reflect on all these years, I see how much he shaped me into the person I am today, how he taught me patience, kindness, empathy, resilience, and how he showed me that the heart is capable of holding more love than I ever imagined. And I know that without him, without his quiet dedication, his unwavering support, his gentle guidance, I would not have learned to believe in people, to believe in love, and most importantly, to believe in myself. And that is the story of my stepfather, the man who taught me how to believe in people, how to believe in love, and how to believe in myself.
And that is the story of my stepfather, a story that continues every day in small gestures, in shared laughter, in tears wiped away, and in the silent promise of always being there, always choosing love, because love is not perfect, but it is patient, it is persistent, it is transformative, and it is the force that binds us together, teaching us that family is not just what we are born into, but what we build, nurture, and cherish together. As the years passed, I grew older and more aware of the sacrifices my stepfather made for our family, though at first I could not see them clearly because I was wrapped up in my own world of teenage confusion, school stress, friendships, and the constant search for identity. And I often misunderstood his intentions, thinking he was strict or distant. But looking back now, I see that every rule he set, every correction he made, and every moment he pushed me to do better came from a place of love and care. And I remember vividly one winter evening when I had an argument with my best friend at school, feeling hurt and angry. And I stormed into the house, slamming the door, my heart racing, my thoughts spinning. And he came into the room, quietly sat on the bed, and simply said, "Lisa, I know it's hard, but sometimes people hurt us not because they want to, but because they don't know how to help themselves." And I felt my anger begin to soften, though I did not show it. And over the next few months, he became my guide in understanding people, teaching me patience, empathy, and forgiveness, lessons that no classroom could ever give me. And slowly, I began to trust him more, sharing secrets, dreams, and fears that I had kept hidden even from my mother. Because he never judged, never scolded, never demanded. He simply listened and reflected. And I remember nights when we stayed up late talking about life, love, and the future. And he told me stories from his own childhood, stories of hardship, struggle, and mistakes. And I realized that he too had faced challenges and that everyone carries burdens we cannot see. And in that realization, I began to see him not just as a stepfather, but as a human being, a soul with his own fears, dreams, and imperfections. And I remember the summer I turned 16, my mother was working extra hours and I was left alone at home after school, feeling bored and lonely. And he noticed, and instead of leaving me to my boredom, he suggested we bake cookies together. And as we mixed flour and sugar, laughed at our mistakes, and shared stories, I felt a connection that words could never fully express, a bond that grew stronger with each shared experience, each act of kindness, each moment of patience. And even when I rebelled, when I shouted, slammed doors, and refused to follow his advice, he never gave up. He never retaliated. He never withdrew his love. And I began to understand that love is not about always agreeing, but about being there through disagreements, about standing firm in care and guidance, about showing up every day, even when it is difficult. And I remember the day I failed an important exam again, feeling the weight of disappointment crush me. And I wanted to hide from the world, to feel sorry for myself. But he came to my side, hugged me, and whispered, "Lisa, this does not define you. You are capable of more than you think. I believe in you." And those words stayed with me for years, becoming a source of courage whenever I doubted myself. And through the years, our relationship became a tapestry woven from laughter, tears, lessons, and shared moments. And I remember one spring afternoon when we planted a small garden in the backyard, digging, planting, and watering flowers together. And he explained that life is like a garden. You have to nurture it, be patient, care for it every day. And sometimes, even when it seems like nothing is growing, the roots are forming. And I realized that this was a metaphor for everything he had been teaching me about life, family, and love. And I started to see that family is not just about shared blood, but about shared experiences, commitment, and choosing to care for one another no matter what. And I also learned that being a stepchild does not mean being second best or unloved. It means being given a second chance at love, guidance, and protection. And through all the small gestures, his presence at my school plays, his encouragement in my hobbies, his quiet advice, his laughter, and his unwavering support, I learned to trust him, to love him, and to cherish the bond that we had built together. And now, as I think about the teenage years, with all the awkwardness, confusion, and rebellion, I can see clearly how he shaped me into a confident, compassionate, and resilient person, teaching me that family is built with patience, love, and understanding, that mistakes do not make you unworthy of care, that forgiveness is a gift we give ourselves and others, and that the heart is capable of loving in ways we never imagined. And that is why I can proudly say that my stepfather is not just a guardian or a parent. He is a teacher of life, a keeper of love, a patient companion, and a man whose presence changed my world forever. And through every challenge, every laugh, every tear, I have learned that love is not about perfection. It is about consistency, commitment, and the courage to care deeply. And now, as I continue to grow, I carry his lessons, his love, and his example in my heart, teaching me that family is what we choose to nurture, and that love, when given freely, transforms lives in ways that nothing else can. And this is my story, my journey with my stepfather, a story that I hope inspires you to see that love can come unexpectedly, that patience and kindness are powerful, and that family is not just what we are born into, but what we build, nurture, and cherish together.
And the willingness to stay, to listen, and to love every single day. When I think back to my earliest memories with my stepfather, I remember being 8 years old, shy and unsure about having someone new in our lives. And at first, I did not understand why my mother wanted to remarry, And I felt a mix of fear, confusion, and sadness, thinking that no one could ever replace my father, who had been my world, my guide, and my hero. And yet, he did not try to replace him. He simply stepped into our lives quietly, gently, and patiently, letting me set the pace, letting me decide when I would trust him. And I remember the first time he held my hand while crossing the street, not forcing me, just waiting until I felt ready. And in that small act, I felt a tiny spark of safety, a small reassurance that maybe he could be someone I could rely on. And over the years, he continued to show love in small, meaningful ways, leaving notes in my lunchbox telling me I was brave, cheering silently from the sidelines when I participated in school activities, and showing up for every important moment, even when he was tired or busy. And slowly I began to notice how much he cared, not just about me, but about my happiness, my growth, and my dreams. And I remember one rainy afternoon when I had stayed home from school because I was sick, feeling lonely and upset, and he brought me a warm blanket, my favorite soup, and a small notebook to write in. And he sat quietly nearby, reading his own book, but always glancing at me, making sure I was comfortable and cared for. And I realized then that love is not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it is quiet, consistent, and persistent. And over the years, those quiet moments multiplied, building a bond stronger than I could have imagined, teaching me that family is not defined by words alone, but by actions, and that love grows in patience, understanding, and care. And I also remember the first big argument we ever had, when I was 12 and testing boundaries, feeling frustrated by rules I thought were unnecessary. And I shouted at him, telling him I didn't need him, that he wasn't my real father. And I expected him to be angry, to punish me. But he simply listened, calmly, without interrupting. And when I was finished, he said softly, "Liza, I cannot change the past, but I can choose to be here for you. I am not trying to replace anyone. I am here because I care." And I felt a strange mix of guilt and gratitude, realizing that even when I lashed out, he chose love over anger, patience over resentment. And that moment taught me a lesson I would carry forever, that true love is not conditional on behavior. It is consistent, forgiving, and enduring. And I began to see him not as a stranger, not as someone I had to accept, but as a person who had chosen to love me despite my flaws, my stubbornness, and my fears. And over time, I started sharing small things with him, my favorite books, my dreams of traveling, my fear of failing exams, my secrets about friendships and crushes. And he responded with kindness, guidance, and understanding, never dismissing my feelings, never belittling my fears. And I learned that communication, empathy, and patience are the foundations of love and family. And I also remember the first time I cried in front of him, feeling overwhelmed by school pressures and my own insecurities. And he did not tell me to stop crying. He simply held me, whispering that it was okay to feel, that showing emotion is not weakness. And in that embrace, I felt a wave of relief, of acceptance, and of deep gratitude, realizing that love does not judge. It supports, it encourages, and it heals. And as I grew into my teenage years, our bond strengthened further through shared experiences, helping him fix things around the house, learning to cook meals together, taking long walks where we talked about life, dreams, and mistakes, and even sitting in silence when words were unnecessary. Because silence with someone who cares is never empty. It is full of trust, comfort, and understanding. And I began to see that my stepfather was teaching me life lessons through every small gesture, showing me patience, responsibility, resilience, and the quiet power of consistency. And even when I struggled with teenage rebellion, anger, or self-doubt, he never gave up, never withdrew his care, never stopped believing in me. And I began to understand that family is not about perfection. It is about showing up, about choosing to love, and about being present through every moment. And now, as I reflect on those years filled with laughter, tears, mistakes, and growth, I realize that my stepfather shaped me into the person I am today, teaching me that love is patient, resilient, forgiving, and transformative, and that family is not just defined by blood, but by the unwavering presence, care, and love of someone who chooses to stay, to nurture, and to guide you through life's challenges. And that is why I can say with all my heart that my stepfather is not just a parent. He is a teacher, a friend, a mentor, and a source of love that continues to inspire me every day. A living example of the power of kindness, patience, and unconditional love. And this story of my stepfather is not just my story. It is a story about the strength of human connection, about hope, about trust, about choosing to love, and about how family, in its truest sense, is built through patience, understanding, and the courage to show up every day, no matter what. And this is the story I will carry with me forever. A story of love, growth, and the quiet transformative power of someone who chose to be there for me when I needed it most.
As I stepped into adulthood, I began to see my stepfather in a completely new light, not just as a parent who cared for me during childhood, but as a man who had quietly shaped my understanding of life, love, and resilience. And I remember the first time I faced a truly serious challenge, when I had to move to a new city for university, leaving behind the comfort of home, my friends, and the familiar routines that had always made me feel safe. And I was terrified of failing, of being alone, of not being able to navigate the complexities of adulthood. And it was my stepfather who prepared me, not with lectures or strict rules, but with quiet encouragement and gentle guidance, sitting with me late into the night as I packed my bags, helping me organize my thoughts, sharing advice on how to manage responsibilities, how to handle stress, and how to trust myself. And even though I wanted to rebel, to push away his concern and handle everything alone, I realized that his love was not overbearing. It was empowering. And when the day came to leave, I hugged him tightly, feeling the weight of all the years we had shared. And he whispered, "Liza, you are ready. Remember, no matter where life takes you, you carry us with you." And I understood then that love is not about holding someone close physically. It is about preparing them to fly, to live, to face the world with courage, confidence, and hope. And over the years at university, I faced failures, heartbreaks, moments of doubt, and days when I felt invisible and insignificant. And each time I called him, even if just to hear his calm voice, he reminded me of my strength, of my worth, and of the lessons he had quietly instilled in me, teaching me that mistakes are part of growth, that setbacks are temporary, and that perseverance is fueled by belief in oneself and the support of those who love you. And I remember one particular evening when I had failed an important exam and wanted to quit, feeling the weight of disappointment crush me. And I called him, my voice shaking with tears. And he listened, without judgment, without criticism, and then said, "Liza, failure is not who you are. It is just a moment. You are capable of more than this. I believe in you." And in that moment, I felt the full depth of his unwavering faith, a faith that gave me courage to continue, to rise, and to face challenges with determination and determination. And as I graduated and began my first job,
navigating the complexities of adult life, office politics, and personal responsibilities, he continued to be my guide, offering advice, support, and perspective, never controlling my choices, but always helping me see the bigger picture. And I remember the day I moved into my first apartment, nervous and overwhelmed by the independence and responsibility, and he drove across the city to help me unpack boxes, arrange furniture, and even cook my first simple meal in my new kitchen. And I laughed at his silly jokes, feeling that familiar warmth of being seen, cared for, and understood. And through all of life's milestones, job interviews, heartbreaks, achievements, disappointments, he was there, a constant source of love, wisdom, and encouragement. And I realized that the bond we had built over years of small acts, patience, understanding, and care was unshakable, unbreakable, and more powerful than anything I had imagined as a child. And I also realized that my stepfather had not only shaped my life, but had quietly shaped my character, teaching me the importance of empathy, responsibility, patience, and unconditional love. And I remember the first time I truly saw him cry, not from sadness, but from pride and joy, as I received recognition for a project I had worked on tirelessly. And I hugged him tightly, realizing that the roles had shifted, that the child I had once been was now grown, but that the lessons he taught me continue to guide me, and that love, patience, and presence have a lasting impact that transcends time. And even now, when life throws challenges, setbacks, or moments of doubt my way, I think back to all the moments with my stepfather. The quiet gestures, the patient guidance, the unwavering support. And I am reminded that love is not perfect, that family is not defined by blood, but by care, commitment, and the willingness to be present through life's joys and struggles. And I know that because of him, I am stronger, kinder, more resilient, and capable of loving deeply, forgiving freely, and facing life with courage. And that is why my story with my stepfather is not just a story of childhood or teenage years. It is a story of a lifetime, a story of growth, love, and learning, a story that continues to unfold with every passing day as he remains a guiding light, a source of inspiration, and a living example of how patience, kindness, and unconditional love can transform a life, heal wounds, and create a family that is bound not by blood alone, but by heart, choice, and enduring love. And I hope that anyone who hears my story understands that sometimes the people who choose to stay with you, who care, guide, and love you, are the ones who truly shape your world. And that love, patience, and presence are gifts that last a lifetime. And this is my story, the story of my stepfather, the man who showed me what it means to love, to care, and to be loved in return. A story I will carry in my heart forever, and a story I hope inspires others to see that family is built with love, trust, patience, and the courage to always choose connection, care, and understanding no matter what life brings. And now, as I reflect on my life and the incredible journey I've shared with my stepfather, I realize that the lessons he taught me, the love he gave me, and the patience he showed me are treasures I will carry with me forever. Because he was not just a stepfather in title, he was a guide, a mentor, a friend, and a living example of what it means to love without conditions, to care without judgment, and to stay present even when life is hard. And I want everyone listening to know that family is not only about blood, but about the people who choose to show up, who choose to support you, who choose to believe in you when you doubt yourself. And that even when life is challenging, even when the world feels heavy, the love, patience, and guidance of someone who truly cares can change your life in ways you never imagined. And as I look back on all the moments, childhood memories, teenage struggles, small daily gestures, Laughter, tears, challenges, and triumphs. I understand that every shared smile, every quiet conversation, every act of support built a bond stronger than I could ever have expected. And it is because of him that I have learned to be patient, kind, resilient, and loving in my own life. And I hope that this story inspires you to see the power of love, patience, and family in your own life, to cherish the people who choose to be there for you, to forgive, to trust, and to open your heart to the unexpected gifts that life brings. And I want to end by saying that my stepfather taught me the most important lesson of all, that love is not about perfection. It is about showing up, staying present, and caring with all your heart. And that when someone chooses to walk alongside you, guide you, and love you unconditionally, they become a part of your life forever, shaping who you are, helping you grow, and giving you the courage to face the world. And for that, I am endlessly grateful. And I know that no matter where life takes me, the lessons, love, and presence of my stepfather will always be with me, reminding me that family is built through love, patience, understanding, and the quiet, consistent choice to care every single day.